Ukraine's military has posted videos of its soldiers launching strikes using U.S.-delivered weapons called Himars. These long-range rocket launchers that can fire up to 53 miles are being used by Kyiv to blast Russian ammunition stores and hamper crucial supply lines, like this bridge to the occupied city of Kherson. Military analysts say recent attacks with the systems could be slowing down Moscow's advances in eastern Ukraine.
The Himars could very well enable the Ukrainians to push back against the Russians in a very significant way.
But to turn the tide of the war and reclaim control of some Russian-occupied territories, Kyiv says it needs more long-range and sophisticated weapons. As the U.S. prepares to send another $1 billion in military aid, here's how Himars are helping Ukraine, and which other American weapons could enhance Kyiv's capabilities. Since the start of the war in late February, the Biden administration has provided a range of weapons to Ukraine. Those include Harpoon anti-ship missiles and artillery units such as the M777 howitzers. But military analysts say the delivery of Himars in late June has been a game-changer. That's because of the advanced capabilities of the weapons. Himars have roughly double the range of the previously provided howitzers, and defense experts say they have greater precision and higher mobility than Russia's equivalent, the BM-30 Smerch, which has a longer range.
They're also very easy to move and operate. So the operators now are sitting in these Himars. They're comfortable, they're safe, they feel protected, and the technology is quite sophisticated. So they really feel empowered.
Operators need around 5 minutes to set up the weapons to strike targets, but only need around 20 seconds to be able to relocate after they have fired.
And that's really important because the risk with artillery is the possibility of counterattack by the Russians, that they identify where this fire is coming from and they respond.
They are all reasons why Himars are strengthening Kyiv's forces at a critical moment in the war. For weeks, Moscow has been bombarding eastern Ukraine with artillery-heavy strikes, culminating in Moscow claiming control over the Luhansk region in early July. But the U.S. rockets are now enabling Ukraine's forces to strike Russian bases. These satellite images show an ammunition storage unit on July 11th and a day later, after Kyiv said it was leveled by Himars.
So they've been going after Russian supply depots exactly and sort of limiting the pace at which the Russians can resupply their front line.
That's Siddharth Kaushal, a military analyst at the Royal United Services Institute. He says Himars are forcing Russia to make adjustments on the battlefield.
So the Russians have adapted by doing things like moving their supply depots outside the effective range of Himars. But what that means is now supply lines are even longer, which means that the time and logistical effort of moving supplies to the front line is greater.
As well as moving some of its equipment further away from combat, Russia has made targeting Ukraine's long-range weaponry a priority. This video released by the Russian Defense Ministry claims to show strikes on the U.S. weapons in Ukraine. That's a sign that Moscow sees the additional firepower as strategic. The Pentagon said Russian claims that the systems were destroyed were false. But despite initial success in slowing down Russia's offensive, Ukraine says it needs more support to reclaim lost territory in the next stages of the war. The Biden administration, which has sent $9.8 billion in military aid to Ukraine amid the war, has considered sending more advanced systems.
Western allies have been very kind of excited and satisfied by the way in which the Ukrainians have used these tools quite effectively. So they're providing more of the systems. They may provide more ammunition and longer range munition. And then there's also been talk recently about providing the Ukrainians with fighter jets.
That addition could bolster Ukraine's air fleet, which is eclipsed by Russia's in terms of numbers of aircraft. And more modern fighter jets would allow Ukraine to strike behind Russian lines and to provide air cover to its troops. But so far, the U.S. has resisted giving Ukrainian forces weapons that could be seen as escalating the conflict. That's because of concerns from some U.S. officials that the equipment could be used to strike targets within Russia. And even if more advanced tools are provided to Kyiv, Ukrainian operators will still need to be trained to use them. In the meantime, Ukraine isn't expected to regain territory using Himars alone. Instead, military analysts say they will continue to play an important supporting role.
So as the war grinds on, Ukraine is going to be in need of more of pretty much everything, whether it's tanks or arms, ammunitions. But it seems like the Himars will continue to be a really important part of that mix, and they've enabled the Ukrainians to make a statement of how effective they can be.